All right, welcome back. This is the last day of the trials of Stede Bonnet and his crew down in Charlestown, South Carolina. On this date, Wednesday, November the 12th, 1718, that is 302 years ago, two indictments of Stede Bonnet for taking the Fortune and the Francis and each of their captains. Judge Trott is going to come forward and say that the verdict of the jury, he's found guilty on one. And then, as McCallie discussed yesterday, when he pleads guilty for the second indictment, as Judge Trott is going to say, he confessed when he changed his plea to the second indictment. So most of this day is a speech by Judge Trott. McCallie and I have kind of been making fun of Judge Trott's long-windedness sometimes in this trial, and this is another day of Judge Trott just going on and on and on. Like the previous sentences, he goes a little poetical about the Bible and pulls out some Bible verses. And it's just curious, he talks about two major sins that Stede Bonnet committed, the sins of theft and the sins of murder. And he reminds Stede Bonnet that he might be indicted for two instances where he was a thief, but he could have been tried for 13 in total. He's only tried for two, but there are 11 other instances where Stede Bonnet seems to have committed thievery or piracy on the high seas, and that is brought up during these trials. So he's kind of getting a kitchen pass, if you will. He's only being indicted or tried for two, of which 13 total are brought forward in these trials. Additionally, not only for the sin of being a thief, he's a murderer. And Judge Trott reminds the jury, reminds the courtroom, that there are 18 South Carolinians that are killed at the hands of Stede Bonnet and his crew in the Cape Fear River. And I love this little passage from the trials. Judge Trott says that the power of the sword not being committed into your hands by any lawful authority, you were not empowered to use any force or to fight anyone, and therefore those persons that fell in that action in the Cape Fear River, in doing their duty to king and to country, were murdered, and that their blood now cries out for vengeance and justice against you. Some pretty strong words there from Judge Trott. He continues to say that it's his duty as a Christian, as a benevolent kind of leader in South Carolina, to remind Stede Bonnet that he can confess his sins and seek repentance from God. He says, so that now if you sincerely turn to him that is God, even though it's late, even at the 11th hour, he will receive you. But I surely need not to tell you that the terms of his mercy is faith and repentance. So here Judge Trott reminding Stede Bonnet at this 11th hour, you need to turn to repentance, you need to return to God in order to seek salvation. And just this last quote, he says, and therefore having now discharged my duty to you as a Christian, this is Judge Trott again, by giving you the counsel I can respect to the salvation of your soul, I must do my duty in the office as a judge. And of course, Judge Trott's duty is to say that you, said Stede Bonnet, shall go hence to the place whence you came, and from thence to the place of execution, where you shall be hanged by the neck till you are dead. And God have infinite mercy to be merciful to your soul. And thus we will conclude this video series in a few days discussing the execution of Stede Bonnet. So thanks for joining us, folks.